Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Julius D. Bear with Majestic Studios, and I got another great video for you guys today. There is a new keyboard that was released recently, and I am going to be honest. At first, I was jonesing for it so bad. I wanted to get that keyboard so bad. It's the MPC Key 61. I am not a big beat maker, but there are some features that the MPC has had in its ecosystem, in its operating system for a while, that allows you to track songs and then bounce between the tracks like you're using the clip launcher in Ableton. And man, that is just something that I just love as far as creating songs and creating music, and being able to use something like that in church for backing tracks. If you're in a band situation or a situation where you're the only musician, and you can have backing tracks pre-recorded behind you that you can play on top of. A lot of people are doing that with Ableton these days, but it's something that a feature that's been in the MPC for a long time. And knowing that this keyboard was coming out, it was just something that I was like, man, you know, that could be really cool to take that small 61 key keyboard, sit it on top of the organ with my tracks already in there, and I can just bounce between, you know, different places and loop stuff as long as it needs to stay looped, and just go to the next section and run that section however many times. I just thought that was a really, really cool idea. And it still is. It still is a really cool idea. But I'd kind of reconsidered it. And yeah, I did say I wanted that keyboard really bad. And that's one thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to buy keyboards. I love keyboards. You guys know that. But when this new one came out, I was really contemplating jumping on the bandwagon and grabbing me one and utilizing it in church for live backing tracks. But the more I thought about it, I kind of started to veer away and think that, you know, maybe that wasn't going to be the best thing. But I came up with a great solution, and I think that it could benefit you guys too. I got the poor man's MPC Key 61. And when I say poor man's, I don't mean poor. I don't mean that we can't buy the keyboard. A lot of us could probably get it if we wanted to. But for those that can't, or for those that don't want to, there are viable solutions. And so I want to introduce you guys now to my makeshift, or my poor man's MPC Key 61. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of just show you what you can put together for your own setup, and what I put together just to give me that same concept, or at least, you know, an idea as far as utilizing the same feature set that the MPC Key brings to the table. So don't laugh either. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. But this is the poor man's MPC Key 61. All right, guys. So first off, what I have here, I have taken a 61 key keyboard, the MPC Live. This is the first version, the one without the speakers. They have an MPC Live, a second one that came out that has a speaker across the bottom of the unit right here. And then I also have a audio interface. Okay, so I'm going to break this thing down really quick for you guys and show you like what my thought process is, and possibly some things that you can consider as far as the way you have your setup if you decide to go this route. Okay, so first of all, this is the Roland JW 50 workstation. This keyboard is at least 30 years old. My parents got this keyboard for me when I turned 11 years old. It wasn't my first keyboard. I think my first keyboard was like a little 61 key Casio that I started learning to play on. But this was my first pro level keyboard, the Roland JW 50. And I use this keyboard in the example. Now I have, you know, you can see behind me, I have there's a MODX7 back there. There's a Korg M3 there. There's a right to my right off camera. There's a Kronos here. I've got Motif ES upstairs. I've got access to, you know, keyboards. And like I said, that's just what I do. But I brought this keyboard out specifically to show you guys that it does not have to be the latest and the greatest and the most feature-rich keyboard. Something 30 years ago that was made could function in this same vein as the key bed on the MPC 61. Now, what's really cool about that though, one of the biggest complaints that I've seen so far or heard so far about the MPC Key is the key bed. I haven't played one myself. I haven't touched and felt it and, used the keys, but I've heard that the keys are not the greatest quality. Now, for some, that may be a deal breaker. For others, it may not matter. It really just depends on what you need as it relates to a key bed. But choosing your own keyboard allows you to put any key bed that you like in your poor man's MPC Key. So you can, if there's a keyboard that you feel really comfortable with using, you like the way it feels, and that's the only thing, you don't use it for anything else, or even if you do use it for other things, you can put that in your rig. And when you get the keyboard that you like, you can bring the sounds from that keyboard into the MPC. You can bring some of the MIDI functionality from that keyboard into the MPC. And that's the next thing that I'm going to talk about. See, this keyboard here, it has MIDI capabilities. So I am able to connect a MIDI cable from this keyboard into my MPC Live, and then I'm able to trigger sounds in the MPC just like I have an MPC Key. And it's just this 30-something-year-old keyboard with standard MIDI protocol. I like the way the keys feel for this application. It's not something that I would probably pick to use, in performances or whatever. It just, like I said, it all depends on what you want, what you need, and what you could benefit the most from. But for me, as far as making tracks or if I decide to make beats or whatever, I can do those right here using this key bed. It also has faders that can be assigned to a certain extent to control sounds. One of the things that I wanted to check on was if the MPC would allow me to, and I think they do have part of one of the operating systems where they did allow us to map external MIDI controls to control stuff within the MPC. So if that works out, now I'm able to control sounds from the MPC Key right from here using the faders or whatever functionality I need from this keyboard. And I think that's a really cool thing. So that is a benefit. You can take a keyboard that doesn't cost a lot of money. They have MIDI controllers of all level qualities. They have little small 25 key ones. They have 49 key ones. They have 61 key, 76 key. And even if you want a full blown weighted piano, you can take that keyboard and connect it to your MPC. Now let's move to that, because that is a huge part of this. You're gonna need to get an MPC Live or an MPC Live 2 or one of the many different variations. They have several out there. But you can get you one of those and it's not going to cost you $2,000, which is what the MPC costs. MPC Key costs $1,800, $1,900. I think that's what the street price on it is. So if you're able to find you one of these, even if it's new, I was lucky enough to get mine for a really, really crazy price. What some guys, laugh about, they call it a divorce special. I guess I was able to get mine from a lady that was selling the gear, and she was getting rid of stuff. I got my MPC Live for I think about $300, and this was about a year ago. So that's an insane price. Yes, I know. But they can be found for, $500, $600. And now that the MPC Key is out, I'm sure a lot of people are selling theirs to try to upgrade. Now, your mileage may vary as far as that's concerned, as far as your ability to search in the used market and get a great price on a unit, but they are out there and you can get them for good prices. So that is a key component. One of the cool things about the MPC, the MPC Live, is versus the MPC Key. The MPC Key has one set of MIDI ports. It has a MIDI in, out, and through. Now, on the back of the MPC Live, there are two sets of MIDI ports on the back of the MPC Live. So what that allows is not only can I have one keyboard connected to the MPC Live, I can have two keyboards. Actually, if you're going to use like the MIDI outs or if you know about using MIDI through, you may be able to connect more. But just as far as the basic functionality of a 16-channel MIDI protocol, there are two different sets of MIDI ports on the back of the MPC Live. There's an there's a MIDI in and out A, and there's an in and out B. And what that allows you to do is, like I said, you can connect a keyboard like this Roland JW50. I'm able to connect the MIDI out from this keyboard into the MIDI in on the MPC Live. And then what that allows me to do is it allows me to trigger sounds from this synth action keybed in the MPC and trigger sounds in there and record and track directly to that sequencer. So how that will benefit me having two MIDI ports is that I can, not two MIDI ports, but two different sets of MIDI ports is I could have this synth action keyboard and I could have a weighted keyboard. So if I have another MIDI controller, another AKAI key MIDI controller, I can use that if I'm playing mains or if I'm using it to record like pianos or EPs and stuff like that. But when I'm running like keybase or lead sounds or organ sounds or strings and stuff like that, I could do that from this synth action keyboard, and I could have them both connected to the MPC at the exact same time. Now with the MPC Key, you have the MPC's, the keybed that is on the machine, and then you have another set of MIDI on the outside. So you could add a second one there if you like as well. But another cool thing is that now you can connect the MIDI out from the MPC back into the keyboard. And so what that would allow you to do is you don't have to record audio from the keyboard, or you don't have to necessarily use the sounds that are inside the MPC to use the sounds inside the MPC for your tracks. You can record MIDI using the keybed on your keyboard. You can record the MIDI into the MPC, and then you can take that MIDI out from the MPC and re-trigger the sounds. So you're not then stuck with using sounds inside the MPC, because the MIDI information is going to leave the MPC via the MIDI out and go into the keyboard and trigger the sounds that you will hear. So that's really cool, because now that means I can have the MPC sound source and I can have the sound source from the keyboard that I picked. Now, of course, if you use a MIDI controller that's just MIDI, then it won't have any sounds. But if you have a keyboard that you like with even relatively decent sounds, you can get some good benefit and good mileage from that as well. So that leads me to the next thing is, well, how will the sounds from the keyboard get into the MPC? Well, the MPC Live has line inputs on the back of it. It has a 1/4 inch left, a 1/4 inch right, and it also has an RCA left and right. So you can go into the machine and record audio directly into the sequencer that way. But what is really cool, and this was a feature that was introduced in the operating system 2.10, I believe that's correct, with the MPC, is they allowed standard USB compliant audio interfaces to serve as an interface for the MPC. So that allows you to expand your inputs and your outputs using a audio interface. So that's like right here, I have the Focusrite Scarlett 18i8. Not anything really expensive. I think you can probably get these used for $200 or $300. And you don't have to buy this one. You can get something lower, lesser quality, lesser inputs. This is a 18i8. It allows 18 inputs and 8 outs. And those inputs, when you plug up into your MPC via USB, it shows up in your MPC just like it would on your computer as I/O. That's incredible. So the MPC Key on the back, it has two phantom powered combo jack inputs that you can plug microphones or keyboards and record audio directly into the machine. But with this, I have on just this interface, there are 4 XLR combo jacks on the front, which that means they will take XLR input or quarter inch input. And then there are also 4 more 1/4 inch inputs on the back. So I could have 4 microphones and 2 stereo keyboards, or 4 mono keyboards, or 2 stereo keyboards, and 1 stereo keyboard and 2 mono keyboards plugged into the back of the keyboard. That's quite a bit of I/O that you can bring into the MPC, and the MPC can record all of those tracks at one time. Yo, that is crazy. So you're not just limited to the 2 mic jacks that are on the back of the keyboard, because it's all sitting there on your interface. And like I said, you can get whatever interface you want as long as it's an accepted one. It's USB compliant. You just plug it up into the back of the machine via USB, and then you go into the preferences and you go into the audio settings and you change it from being the internal I/O to the external I/O. Now with that, it took me a while to figure this part out. I had to look up some information online, but it does turn off when you do that. It turns off the I/O that is on the MPC. So the headphone jack, any of the input jacks, the outputs, all of that stuff doesn't work anymore. Once you initiate another audio interface. Now, of course, when you're done, you can turn it off and it defaults back to the audio I/O in the MPC. But this is a great way to expand your I/O for your MPC. So now my poor man's MPC, basically, it consists of the MPC operating system, which is the brain. That's right here, the MPC Live. So you guys go out, find you one at a good used price. You can take that $1,800 plus tax, and you can start chopping off. So let's just see if we started off at $1,800. Let's say you're able to get one for $1,800 out the door. Let's see, you can find your MPC. One of the versions of the MPC there, like I said, there are several out there that you can pick from. You get you an MPC, $500-600. Let's see. So now you got $1,200 to go. Now I know any of you guys making beats, you got a keyboard laying around. Now you probably got a keyboard laying around, whether it be a MIDI controller or some type of keyboard. And if not, you can get one, and it's not necessarily going to cost you $2,000. Even if you went back and got you a Triton Classic or a Triton Extreme, or from Korg, or even if you wanted to go Yamaha, if you like Yamaha, you can get one of the older motifs, the ES or the Classic, in a 61 key version, and it's not going to cost you $1,200 to do that in the 61 key version. Move up to the bigger ones, and they could cost you a bit more. But you're still getting added functionality, even if it does, if we run up to the 1800 or even 1514 with this setup, you're still getting added functionality, and you're able to customize it a bit more to exactly what you like. So you get you a keyboard, got you a keyboard already, probably. If you don't have an MPC, grab your MPC, and then of course the audio interface, which you can range. There's a wide range of prices as far as the not the MPCs, as far as the audio interfaces are concerned. So you can get you one of the Focusrite, the Scarletts. Behringer has some lower end ones. There's a lot to pick from as far as USB compliant audio interfaces. So you guys go on your dealer websites or look on your Facebook Marketplace and see what's out there for sale, and you guys could build you a poor man's MPC key or makeshift MPC key on your own, and you don't have to necessarily feel like you have to go out and buy that keyboard. Now, the last thing that I want to mention, because I've told you the advantages, there are some disadvantages. If you don't have anything at all, if you don't have a MPC, you don't have an interface, you don't have a keyboard, then that MPC might be, and you want to make beats, that MPC might be a great thing for you to go out and grab. But if you've got any of these pieces, you can kind of start putting stuff together, and you can create what you need to give off that same feel as what the MPC key is going to do. Now, I will say this. They are charging $500, I think, $400 or $500 for the sound set. Now, that is something that I don't have access to with this makeshift, this poor man's version. I don't have access to those sounds that they brought out with that new operating system when the keyboard came out. But they came out with, some pianos and organs and EPs and stuff that I do not have access to. But for me, being a keyboard player, I've got sounds galore already. And most of you guys do too, I'm pretty sure. But I don't want to assume that. I don't want to assume that you do. But sounds is not really something that we're short of. And one thing that we should probably concentrate more on is, the stuff that we do have, learning how to use it even better. So programming your own sounds, like using the samples and the waveforms that are already in the keyboards, that are in the machines, and And I don't mean native instrument machines. I'm talking about the machines, the MPCs, you know, whatever you're using for your sounds, or sound modules, all of that kind of stuff. Speaking of sound modules, you know, I got a Motif ES rack right here. I have a Roland Integra right here. So I've got sounds for days. So any of those sounds, all I have to do is connect them via MIDI to my keyboard, or to this, or from the MPC. I could, you know, like I told you guys earlier, the MIDI out, you take the MIDI out from the MPC and you connect it to your sound module. You got 16 channels of MIDI that can come out of the beat machine into your sound module and trigger 16 different sounds. Then you take the audio outputs from that. You can either connect them directly into your MPC, or if you have the interface, you can go directly into the interface and record the audio into your MPC, or just have it trigger the audio straight from the unit. And if you don't want to record the audio into the MPC, you can trigger the audio via MIDI, and then you record the audio, whatever your normal workflow is, into your DAW or what have you. So I just wanted to put something out there to show you guys, you know, because I was really on the edge wanting to get this keyboard, and but the way I wanted to use it, I thought that it was going to be beneficial to me, and I thought it would be cool to kind of show, you know, the world, show other musicians that, hey, we can use this just like people are using Ableton, and then you eliminate the need for a computer. And I can do that with just my MPC. I can track my songs in the MPC at home using MIDI, however many channels that I need, and then all I got to do is take the MPC with me to church and a sound module, and it's going to trigger those sounds, and I'm going to have live backing tracks. But I felt like this would be a really cool way to show you guys that, you know, I may not have the MPC key itself, but I may not be very far away from it. So, you know, use what you have, think about it. Not saying don't buy it, because it's still a great machine. But there are some other options out there where you could achieve something very good and very similar using some things that you probably already have. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. Are you still considering getting the MPC? What good have you heard about it? What bad have you heard about it? If you have one already, you can chime in and let me know. Are there some key things that I'm missing with my poor man's setup, with my makeshift setup, some things that could, you know, push me over the edge and say, hey, maybe I do need to go ahead and go buy the board? Or are we pretty spot on? But let me know what you guys think in the comments, please. Don't forget, like I said, share, comment, subscribe, like. Help me out. You know, I'm loving making these videos for you guys, and, you know, from the comments and feedback that I'm getting from people, they are benefiting you. So just like I said, like the videos, share the videos, comment on the videos. Let's interact and let's grow. The channel is doing great right now, and I just hope you guys continue to enjoy this content. But that's all for now. I got my poor man's MPC Key 61, my makeshift. If you guys decide to put one together, put that in the comments too. Let me know what keyboard you chose, what interface you chose, and which MPC you chose to make your poor man's MPC. Like I said, this is Majestic Studios, man, and we're out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.